you for tuning into Roll Call. The movie selected is Anaconda.
Hello and welcome to this episode's edition of Roll Call.
No. We get like the air horn. All right. So we watched Anaconda. So Simone, I'm going to let you kind of intro like why we watched Anaconda, because we picked 5 actors each and then did a little randomized picking. And we landed on your shits and giggles pick of Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. Yes, that's correct. She was my fun pick because as an actress, as a singer, and as a performer, I feel J.Lo is very versatile. She's been in like musicals and dramas and scurry stuff, and she's been in a lot of different kinds of rom-coms.
Rom-com queen, if you ask me.
Indeed.
I think like her and obviously Meg Ryan, but for like the 2000s, her and Kate Hudson definitely had the rom-coms on lock. So yeah, I was kind of excited because I think she's a fun pick, and since this is our intro into podcasting, why not have some light fun movies versus some like heavy actor dramatic people. Like I had Meryl Streep on my list, Denzel Washington, so those would have been some like heavy ass movies. Like there's some fun sprinkled in there, but for the most part they're like pretty like heavy dramatic actors. So J.Lo, J to the L-O, thank you for inspiring us. So Anaconda. So it came out in April of 1997. How old were you, Simone?
If it was April of 97, I would have been on the cusp of turning 7. So I was 6.
I was probably 4. Not quite 5.
90s
on my way to
babies.
kindergarten. 97 is a good year for me because I really liked going to kindergarten. So I always, that's it's like a highlight in my life. I was ready to go to school, and 97's a fond year in my mind. Just a little relevant notation. Selena was released in March of 97. So J.Lo had like 2 major movies back to back. And of course, this isn't her first movie or anything, but we picked this movie first because it's the first movie you saw her in.
I did, yeah.
What do you remember about watching Anaconda as a kid?
So this was one that I never saw in theater because honestly, I blocked out 1997 with the exception of seeing Titanic 8 times in the movie theater, but that's a whole other discussion.
So like 97, I'm like, sweet kindergarten, I'm going to school, and you're like, no, yeah, next year, please.
And so we never saw it in the theater, but this was always one that caught my eye at Blockbuster because I remember when it was released around the holidays for rental at Blockbuster, they would be playing the movie or just at least the trailer over and over again in little clips and bits. And I was someone who kind of always liked scary suspense movies from an early age. And so I just immediately was like, we got to rent that.
I did notate that the VHS release because this is pre-DVD and pre-streaming. God, we're spoiled. The VHS release was in October of 1997. So it was like a prime, probably Halloween pick.
Absolutely.
Maybe Thanksgiving.
Such a family classic.
So that doesn't surprise me that you remember it around the holidays for sure. I vaguely feel like maybe we rented it, and it was probably like one of those movies where, it's like, oh, we're going to watch a movie. And it's like, oh, maybe you won't quite like this, Bria. And I don't really remember it or anything like that. I do remember hearing about it. Like, I remember it very ominously. Like, it's there, but not quite there. It's like a dream that I can't quite see. But since we've watched it like 3,000 times now, I am quite fond of it. And I am quite fond of the 90s-ness of it. So just casting wise, you have a lot of up and coming actors. Ice Cube, who's fresh off of Friday. You have Owen Wilson, who this was like his third major role. And I'm not sure if it was his first movie or like whatever, but it was one of his first like kind of big roles, which I didn't realize because obviously watching it from now, like older, I think of him as, oh, it's Owen Wilson, but he was a new kid on the block.
Oh, I'm a new kid on the block. It's fantastic. You're a crazy animal.
And then another thing I looked or found out while looking into Anaconda was Eric Stoltz.
Is he the rich bitch?
He's the doctor.
Oh, the one that's like dead for most of the movie.
Yes.
Mom, guess what? I landed this role. I made it so big. That's great, son. What do? I have 2 lines and I sleep most of the time. And I get to kiss Jennifer Lopez.
So I know when we talked before, I kind of was like, that's kind of a lame-ish role because he's kind of so inactive during the movie because he's injured. But maybe he took the role because he also had another movie that came out in April of 1997. So maybe he was just tired and he was like, sweet, I get to take this role.
Fucking phone it in.
Lay down half the time and and still get paid. So Eric Stoltz, if that was not your motivation, I'm sorry. You probably won't even hear this podcast, but that's my theory and I'm sticking with it. Facts aside, so you remember the trailer and being psyched to rent it. Just rewatching the trailer, I think if I saw it in theaters, it like pre a movie or on TV, I definitely, as an adult or not as a kid at that time, not as a 4-year-old, but as an adult, I definitely be like, oh, that looks like a movie I'd want to see with you and friends and scared by big snakes.
Now, if the movie was, or if the trailer was the same as it was in 1997, advertising for this film, would it still interest you now? Or would it have to be like modernized or updated?
Oh, like if, what's funny too, also looking into Anaconda, they're bringing it back. I didn't know that. I've never heard that. But
they're going to make a reboot?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
So from what I've read, they're thinking about bringing it back a la like Meg type movie. I haven't seen the Meg, but I know it's like a big ass whale shark.
Megalodon. Yeah, it's like some prehistoric whale shark thing.
Yeah, so I'm assuming also since we're in the age of special effects and CGI that we're probably going to get some huge ass CGI snake that was not creatable in 97. So I know you're not too psyched on CGI. You're more of a practical effects girl. But
yes, yeah. We'll diverge on that snake a little later.
But I do think that because of this, we would definitely have to go see it just because.
Oh, for sure.
But okay, to go back to your question, if I saw the trailer now, as is 2021, and would I still want to watch it? I don't know because things age, and they're not quite. It's not quite like up to standard of like. Honestly, if Anaconda came out now as is, I feel like it would be straight to streaming. Like it's something hidden deep on Amazon Prime.
Definitely.
It wouldn't
Definitely.
be a blockbuster, which it was. Like, I also saw like the box office numbers, and it was like the second highest grossing movie of April. Uh,
Dang.
the highest grossing movie kind of surprised me. It's called Volcano. I don't know if you've heard of that movie.
Oh my God. Is that the that's Tommy Lee movie where the volcano
Yes.
explodes in LA? Dude, okay, that is one of my favorite disaster movies of all. I mean, Titanic I put in a whole separate category, but like I remember seeing that and being very, very petrified since as a Californian, even though we don't live near California, Bay Area represent, it still scared the shit out of me.
So I was curious. I was like, I've never heard of this movie. And I looked up the trailer and I was kind of like, this beat Anaconda? But I could see why. And I would like to watch it now.
Yeah.
So
Well,
add
if you
that
talk
to my
about
movie
practical
list.
effects like Volcano, I feel like the only thing that was legitimately CGI'd was the lava, but everything else was like, it almost felt like you're watching a movie in the Hollywood Backlot studio tour of Universal.
Oh my God.
but like done really well, obviously. Anyways, I'm really hyping this up but Anaconda had some good things going for it too.
But not to diverge from Anaconda. So I was just looking in general, like what it was competing with at that time. So even though J.Lo had Selena out a month before, I'm wondering if maybe like perchance they were in theaters at the same time briefly, or also like a weekend or two later, Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion came out.
So good.
Yes. So those were the only movies that stood out to me. I am so starved for content or like reasons to watch stuff. There's so much stuff to watch, but I need a good reason to watch something now. And I'm kind of interested in doing a little mini like April 1997 movie binge-a-thon just so I can like acclimate. Like, I should have did it before we did this, but I'm like kind of interested in seeing like how good other stuff was, because there was some stuff on there I was like, I've never heard of this movie and didn't know it existed at all. Let's get into reviews, like general consensus. I know we looked at Mr. Roger Ebert since he was the man of movie reviews.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, Brie, I'm gonna have you guess. Do you think this movie was Roger Ebert? Sorry, I can't pronounce his name. Roger Ebert approved or no? Yes or no? What do you think?
Well, I'm sorry to tell you that I actually read the review too, so I know.
Damn it.
But I was surprised. He actually really liked the movie.
Yes. Quote unquote, Anaconda did not disappoint me. It's a slick, scary, funny feature, beautifully photographed and splendidly acted in high adventure style. Which, wow, that's some high praise, honestly.
I was surprised that he gave it such good glowing reviews. It got 3.5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty solid like thumbs up.
That's a B plus, man.
Yeah. I mean, you're the teacher, so you would know. How many stars would you give Anaconda?
Out of how many? 5?
I'm guessing. I don't know his rating system, but
it's 10. This movie was delightful. 3.5 out of 10.
Now you sound like the reviewer from Ratatouille. I'm guessing 5.
I will actually give this a 4 out of 5, only because there were things that I thought held up really well, even in this day and age. Sure, there are some problematic things, but I feel like overall, the film can kind of like stand with the times right now.
Well, I was going to cheat out and be like, I'm with my guy, Roger. 3.5 stars is great. But I think I agree with you too. Like, I think it does hold up really well enough to reboot it, where you're not like, why are they bringing back Anaconda? Like, And so yeah, I'd agree. And plot wise, I think the plot is pretty solid for the kind of movie it is. Of course, there's some things that are you're like, oh God, what a little typical. But other than really the effects, just because technology. But other than that, I think it's still a solid movie. Like it's a solid. I'm probably gonna rewatch it again some point this year. Oh, it's definitely in my Halloween list now. Like Halloween must watch, maybe.
Yeah.
Did you happen to look up any fun facts or random trivia about Anaconda?
I did not.
I have it covered if you want. I looked up, well, I saw on IMDb, so there's my source, people, if this is wrong, that Gillian Anderson actually was offered the role of Terry, which is J.Lo's character, and she turned it down. And she auditioned for the role that Carrie Wurr plays, which is Denise, and she didn't get that role, which intrigues me because it's like, how do you get offered the main role and turn it down, but audition for a lesser role and then don't get that? Like, that didn't make sense to me. So I wonder how true this fun fact is. You see Gillian Anderson. Could you see her in Anaconda?
I think it's hard to think about anyone else in this leading role. If it wasn't going to be Jennifer Lopez, I would still obviously want it to be someone who is a little diverse, just to help balance out everyone on the cast, like the other cast and crew.
So, not any slight to J.Lo, but I think she could have fit into this cast. Unfortunately to me, like Denise wasn't very memorable. She was there snogging young Owen Wilson in the jungle, and then she was whining a lot, and then she got eaten. Well, actually, she got tossed in the water and kind of not. She had the least dramatic death of the movie.
Oh, in terms of like how she went.
Yeah, which while I was watching, I was thinking like, out of all of the characters who died, whose was the best, kind of? I guess that's kind of morbid. Who was the best and who was like the least like satisfactory, or like just like, oh, okay.
Well, I texted you my favorite clip, which was Owen Wilson's whole ass body inside of this CGI snake. And it did that classic pan move where the snake is slithering underwater. And when it gets to the middle of the snake, you just see Owen's face like, ooh, pressed in it. His mouth is in the shape of an O. And it's like, that's a part where I find so comical, because that's one of the main moments that don't hold up to today's CGI standards at all. It was so rough.
Yeah, it really was, especially because the eye area and the mouth area, it seems so sunken in.
Yeah, it looked like a ghost face.
Yeah, like he had already like kind of been digested already. For me, I don't know. I would say that like Jonathan Hyde as Warren Westridge, just the snake like in the air, like catching him was kind of like sick. Like that was like, oh, like because that's a moment to me, like if I was in the theater, I feel like everyone would be like, oh, like,
yeah,
because
definitely.
You kind of don't expect, for one, I expected like him to climb the waterfall and get away from the snake. Like, oh, the snake's not going to be able to, psych.
Yeah.
And then like he's like coiled on this tree, and you're like, okay, well, the only other option is to jump. And you're like, okay, you could jump in the water and like, get back to the boat. Psych. So that was a very like moment for me. Not to hate on the two kind of early deaths, Danny Trejo's random unexplained character, and the lovely Mateo, theirs were kind of like,
Eh.
yeah, especially to be early on in the movie, you know, like they kind of set, you would think it would set a tone, but
Mhm.
I think it also benefited because, like I said, like with Jonathan Hyde's death, like that was a very, oh my God moment.
Mhm.
And even Owen Wilson's. So maybe their deaths were kind of tame to like help ramp up to some of the bigger
Very
cinematic
true.
moments.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that what I appreciated so much about these anacondas was that they showed us many different varieties of how they like to kill. So it kind of always kept you guessing, since the first two were like strangulations and like were kind of slow and a little uneventful, but to like build up from swallowing you whole and then slithering past you with your body in my body and then like going from vicious like venom attacks and then big gulps in the air. Like I don't know, it just I appreciated the variety and the build up. I think you're right.
I would say, actually, I would give it to Denise because, like I said, I think those early ones helped ramp up to the bigger deaths. But she was like right in the middle of everyone else. And it was totally like non existent. She just fell off the boat. No one noticed she was missing really for a while. And then she popped back up when Ice Cube was like, you know, struggling with the snake. But I want to say maybe it strangled her or bit her or something, and then
Yeah.
kind of was like, okay, well, you're there, but I need to take care of some other. So again, she got neglected by the anaconda. Was just like, maybe she didn't taste good. Maybe it was just like,
Maybe she was stinky. Anaconda was like, pig you. I don't want that. Nasty ass.
It's like, oh, you kissed that guy from earlier. Oh, gross. He didn't go down too well, so I'm a pass.
I passed him the way that I ate him. Just one whole body in and out.
Oh man. So one thing I did kind of bring up earlier, that early on in the movie, I noticed that the boat's name is Michaela 1, which I thought was like, I mean, boats are usually named after women, I guess, because they're usually owned by men, which is very patriarchal.
Mhm.
But what do you think you would name your Amazon river boat?
Ooh. Can I call it the Jungle Cruise?
Oh my God. So obviously no one knows this, but we are pretty big Disney fans. And I totally thought of the Jungle Cruise when I thought of this. I was like, oh man, what are some of the boat names on the Jungle Cruise? And so I was trying to think of some. All I could think of was like the holiday ones, which makes me
Oh,
like
yeah.
wanna look at Jungle Cruise boat names even more. But also I remember riding Winnie the Pooh one time, and there's a car named Thoughtful, and it's spelled in Pooh fashion. So it's THOT, like thought. Full. So since we're on a Disney ride naming convention, maybe I'd go with Thoughtful. Just cruising through the Amazon.
I love that.
You wouldn't name it Butternut Squash?
No. And Bria's referring to this picture of a butternut squash floating around on Reddit with a fucking butt crack. And I couldn't sleep last night. I just could not get that thick butt off my mind.
Another thing I noticed that I was curious to get your opinion on was, I mentioned their outfits, because the intro scene, you kind of have everyone getting on the boat. Also, I want to shout out to my dude Warren Westridge and his British ass with his Louis Vuitton luggage.
That was awesome.
like bad and bougie, and he was just like, excuse me, can you take my shit to my quarters to Denise?
Yeah.
Like, that should have been a sign. That should have been a sign. It's just like, I'm a producer. I'm not the help. But her kind of tragic backwards white hat with like the scrunchy clothes thing. I was like, oh, ow.
Yeah.
But I mean, the 90s kind of was all about khaki at one point. So I feel like this movie was like on trend with the, khaki excursion outfits. Also,
Definitely.
I was a huge fan of vests as a kid in the 90s.
Mhm.
And there are some lovely vests going on there.
You know what outfit we're thinking of is Jack Black's in the Jumanji remake.
I have not seen that movie.
Oh, it's not the dumpster fire that I thought it was going to be. Because with us being so partial to the original Jumanji or our version of Jumanji with Robin Williams, like I went into that movie so skeptic, but I thought it was really hilarious.
I've seen it on TV and I've caught like a little bit of, I want to say the sequel, but I was like, I haven't even seen the first one. So I kind of was like, skip. But yeah, I didn't rush to go see that either because I'm weird about reboots sometimes. I'm excited about Anaconda for some reason, but like there are some things I'm just like, do we really need to remake that? Like, why do we need to touch that? Or like, my biggest thing too with reboots is like, I feel like obviously we all hold things dear and we're all inspired by stuff in different ways. Why can't we just make stuff inspired by that stuff? Like, make a jungle movie that's inspired by Jumanji, and because it's not even the board game, they're like in a video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, did they really need to call it Jumanji? It's just like sometimes I feel like the bastardization or the utilization of this name is recognizable. So let's just use this and remake this, but change all this stuff. This is less about J.Lo and just like, let's talk about J.Lo and her performance in Anaconda.
J.Lo served a pretty decent performance, although I almost feel like she didn't get the most dialogue. Like she was in it quite a bit, but I felt like other characters had more dialogue than she did, but I could be out of my mind. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. I think mainly because Jon Voight's character is very Anaconda savvy, and he's kind of like, he took charge once he got on the boat. He was like, we should go this way, and he manipulated them. So he's like, to me, he's kind of more forefront. And then you have Ice Cube, who's very vocal about, he's the vocal black guy. He's like, I don't know about this. And so yeah, J.Lo didn't really have a ton of dialogue, which for her to not have a lot of dialogue, I feel like her presence as a character was still very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And like she was clearly like kind of the leader in a sense, especially once Eric Stoltz, like, first of all, he doesn't even get injured by a snake or anaconda. Like, wait, he does.
No, they pulled him up on the boat, and then he got shot in the neck with a dart.
Yes.
Because like he had the coil, like the snake was like coiled around him, and then Jon Voight's character shot him with the dart, but did it on purpose.
And then this like really sketchy tracheotomy happens.
Yeah.
And also I feel like when they do that, don't they have to leave the tube in there until you can have surgery? Like, he winds up showing up later with just a bandage. I feel like what happens to the hole in your throat? Like,
that's gonna get infected in the Amazon, in the damp ass swamp ass.
I'm just saying
that wound for sure is crawling with maggots.
Also, I feel like the like semi romance between him and J.Lo kind of happened like abruptly with no background whatsoever. You get a sense that they know each other from before somehow, but like not quite how or why. And then all of a sudden, like that night of the first night on the boat, they're like all like romantically looking at little fireflies. Like, yeah, J.Lo and Eric, not Eric, but what's his character's name? Dr. Stephen Kale. Their romance was kind of like typical movie like trope. Also, can we talk about Owen Wilson and Denise going into the jungle and trying to get a little bound chicka wow? Like,
chicka wow.
what were your thoughts when that scene
I
happened?
figured that was just like the cheap, because we don't see her breasts, but I mean, she's in her bra. Or do we see her breasts?
No.
Okay.
There were no titties this
Okay.
movie. except kind of in the beginning, we get a little J.Lo in her tank top because she's definitely braless.
So, okay, anyways, but yeah, right away, I couldn't tell if they were an item or just like friends with benefits, but it doesn't really matter either way, I suppose, because of immediately Owen Wilson's like second interaction with her is like, you know what happens when I'm in the Amazon makes me horny. And he just like throws it out there to her. She gives him a pass, but then they get it on later.
I that was a little heavy-handed. I was like, okay, homeboy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, if someone said that to me and I was like even dating them, I'd be like, the fuck is wrong with you? It is like so swampy and hot and buggy, and like I am not getting naked at all.
Yeah, and then as a guy, like, come on, you probably have like swampy balls, like right now. Like that can't be fun.
Yeah, no one's showering on that boat.
Yeah, and like the ladies definitely have boob sweat. Like, yeah, no, it's not sexy time.
And if they didn't bring like a bag of wet naps or like wet wipes, forget it. Forget it. Your pH balance is going to be way off. Ugh.
And then I'm just thinking like that whole scene of them in the jungle and they put down the sound equipment and stuff. I'm just like, this screams like dumb, because also it's not like they're like during the day, they're just like, okay, we're gonna go like catch some sound. It's at night. You can't see shit. Like, why would you choose? I mean, besides like being able to be like in the dark and no one seeing you, like, why would you choose to try to get frisky in a jungle at night? Like, no, thank you. I would not leave the boat, probably, honestly. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So that was not a hot moment to me. Back to Ice Cube. I don't know if it's because he's the black character, but he's kind of my favorite in this movie. He had some. First of all, we get it was a good day, or today's a good day reference early on in the movie.
Today's a good day.
Yeah. And then personally, his outfit choice, that's probably what I would rock on my Amazon trip. Little bandana, color coordinated shirt, some jorts, and some chucks. Like, keep it all the way California gangsta. Like, and then on top of that, he's like blaring rap music in the middle of the Amazon, and our snooty British friend is not happy with it. He's chipping away at his golf balls.
Yeah, littering in the environment, you jerk.
I know, I totally thought about that. I was like, what a waste of golf balls. And on top of that, like, just harmful to the ecosystem. Like, but I mean, there's probably not much entertainment going on that boat besides like a few card games and listening to Mac 10. And then he had some of my favorite lines because they were like very, I don't know, just like when he's like, "Is snakes out there this big?" Like, I was just like, oh God, yes. Sign me up for that. And it's so weird that like John Voight's character just rolls out this like ridiculously long fruit by the foot of snake skin. Like, first of all, where was it that like where was it that whole time? He just like had it nearby and just like it was just it was one of those moments I was like, okay. And it was good for, setting up, but it was just like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
Maybe that's what he's known for, is like the theatrics of it all. So he always has like props with him to be like, I can't wait to tell my story of the anaconda.
And his stories written it's like
it's like a scroll.
It's like, hold on, wait, I will find the passage with the Shirishama. One thing that I thought was funny too is that obviously Mateo winds up dying, and that low-key felt like a setup. Like, I feel like Sloane was just like, Cerrone, sorry, was just too like, oh, he's probably dead. Like, and he left the pack. Like, why did he go off by himself? I mean, it's a movie, someone has to die, but it definitely felt like he had a little pleasure in like kind of getting him off the main boat, and possibly, I don't know, obviously you can't control the snake, but it was just like, why are you so happy? Like,
well, you saw like the context clues when they were in that like shack, that there was the newspaper picture of Danny Trejo and Mateo, and
yeah. Which low key, I mean, since we know there's a reboot, why not do a little prequel and we get the story behind that picture? Because I'm curious, like, because to me, Mateo and Cerrone, like, they kind of were like, I know you, but they didn't really acknowledge their prior relationship. But for them to have like a picture together and a newspaper clipping, like, there's something there to like, explore, at least to me. So I would be interested in the backstory of that picture. And there's not much backstory in this whole movie, really, because it's a big animal thriller movie. But at the same time, I'm curious, like, did they just meet up in the Amazon and they all were into anacondas? Like,
dude, you like snakes? Dude, me too. No way, man.
Did they find each other on like a big snake chat room on AOL or something?
Man seeking man who also loves snakes. Let's meet up in the Amazon.
He'd be like, I actually have a 17-foot dry snake skin. How about you?
Not to flex, but I have like trunkloads of skin.
That sounds so great. Trunk loads of skin. Abundance of skin. Sorry to anyone who is supportive of us and decides to listen to this podcast. We're learning as we go, and I'm sure we will get better as time goes on. Just like the movie.
We will find our stride.
So what do you think of the big climax of Anaconda?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. To quote Owen Wilson. No, I thought he was great. Had everything that you need: oil, fire, snakes, blood, danger, swallowing whole, and like pretty good classic Hollywood like visual effects.
Yeah, it definitely screams, since we already went there earlier, Universal Studios, like special effects show, like big blast, water nearby, big jump from the tower, writhing fiery snake. Like, just, yeah, it was pretty epic. And another fun fact that I found out about was apparently J.Lo almost died by rogue animatronic snake.
No, what?
Yes.
I mean, I know you said that they had filmed some sets on location in the Amazon. I remember she was like not stoked about it. So what happened?
So from what I could gather, and I believe I read this either on IMDb or I just kind of like Googled Anaconda movie stuff, interview stuff, and I'm guessing it's probably the climax scene or it's a scene where they're close by water and the snake got out of control and they couldn't control it. And they actually kept some of that footage in the movie just because it was like really organic, I guess.
Mhm.
But it almost like whacked her into like the water, I think, or
Oh,
something like that.
jeez.
Maybe let's see if I could find it again. Oh yeah, near death. It pops right up on Google. So
it-
shout out to Screen It for sharing in the
Oh, that's what I
Anaconda
was
facts.
looking at for facts too. And because they were saying like one of the biggest animatronics was like 40 feet or 50 feet long and like 400 pounds.
Yes. And I mean, the animatronics, obviously, they have like tons of wires and stuff. And I think it was the combination of like the wires and the water, and like maybe she was nearby. So it seems like, to quote Screen Rant, due to the nature of this set, which was brimming with water and vegetation, it was difficult for Jennifer Lopez to escape the animatronic puppet, and even more difficult for anybody else to come to her aid if something worse were to happen. More than a ton of metal and wires came close to striking her, or even worse, drowning or electrocuting her. Fortunately, the only result of the puppet's malfunction is some footage of the snake's incredibly realistic movements, which found its way into the movie. So yeah, it's not super specific, but it does have like a lot of like water, wires, rogue snake, electrocution possibility. And it seemed like she was isolated. So it's
Mhm.
not like anyone could kind of help her get out of the situation. That's crazy to think about. I wonder if like anyone else had, well, I'm guessing it would be in a Screen Rant post if anyone else had any close calls or weird things with the animatronics. And I can
Yeah.
only imagine like trying to set them up in that area, you know?
Like in the studio?
Well, so from what I've read, they did film some of it in like a botanical garden in LA or somewhere.
Okay.
So I'm assuming probably that big scene is probably
Mhm.
there and not in the Amazon. But like even in the Amazon, like to bring these huge animatronic snakes there to film them and like have them, they were on water a lot.
Yeah.
Like have them in that area, like that had to be a lot logistically and just
Oh yeah.
like
With
from
something
a
that big, they couldn't have even made it here and then shipped it there. Like they would have had to have made it on
yeah.
location.
Oh, that's interesting. Look into that. I wonder if they had to like crane it, like in anywhere because it's. I imagine it's like massively heavy too, just because
Mhm.
of the electronics and all that stuff too. And then it was wrapped in like rubber, so
Mhm.
it's
It was
like
so
a
heavy.
yeah, it's like a giant like tire. And like wet rubber probably stinks to high heaven with like Amazon water.
That's probably what everyone smelled like on the boat. Amazon water and like rubber, wet rubber.
Yeah,
Blech.
no cast romances going on on the
Yeah.
set of Anaconda. Like, we're sweaty all day. No, thank you.
Mm.
I will say that also back to J.Lo. I really am enjoying seeing her like her whole like J.Lo glow look like on the red carpet and stuff now. And obviously in 97 she was coming up and like her curly hair. Like bring that back. Like I liked her 90s curly hair. Like,
Yeah. This looks like a more like humble J.Lo.
she's fresh faced. Even Ice Cube, like he's got a little baby face going. He's not a baby, but like he grew out of the Jerry curl of NWA and Boys in the Hood. He's got a nice little cut. He did Friday, just like that. But he's not like the heavy bearded, like tough, like dad kind of Ice Cube that we know now. And even Owen Wilson surprisingly looks the same.
Yeah, agreed.
He has the same haircut, same nose.
Oh, that's his shit. I don't think Owen Wilson would ever get that fixed or change anything about it.
No, I mean it's just like Danny Trejo's like scarred up face, like
makes him so unique.
Signature. Yeah. I mean, Danny Trejo is older, so he has aged a bit, but he's still very recognizable, even in that short intro in the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any last lingering thoughts? Anything else you want to touch on?
If you were on this crew, do you think you would have survived this trip?
Do I think I would have survived? I mean, the cocky part in me wants to say yes. And part of that is like, I feel like I just would have been inside doing something most of the time. So I probably wouldn't have been too close to get nearly eaten somehow. But like I would have been the Eric Stoltz character on the trip of Anaconda. I don't know if I'd be injured, but I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna unpack everyone's bags. There are plenty of moments. I'm sure no one's steering the boat. Like I'm gonna just make sure that we're not gonna crash into anything. Like busy myself. You know. What about you? Do you think you would survive?
Part of me kind of similar. So part of me says yes, but only because I hate extreme temperatures. Like if it's so, and it's going to sound like this is an argument for no, but I hate extreme temperatures and I am like very, very uncomfortable in like thick humidity and hot weather. And so having gone to visit some of those places, and like how miserable I was, I would say if I was on that trip, in an open boat with no fan, I would probably just be popping like Benadryls and sleeping all day. So if that was the case and like I never knew what was going on, I'd probably be okay.
We're both trying to like not involve ourselves as much as possible in the plot, but still make it out alive.
Exactly. And then if that wasn't the case, if I had to like be awake and I could not take Benadryl, then for sure I would not have survived.
So if I could not busy myself otherwise, making sure I was nowhere near snakes, to segue into what popped in my head when I was watching it, I just want to like shout out to the 90s and diversity, because you have two people of color who are kind of semi leading this movie with Ice Cube and J.Lo, and they both survive. Like typical Black joke is like the Black person always gets killed early on in scary movies.
Yeah.
And Ice Cube held it down, and he had a closer brush with the Anaconda than J.Lo, because he was in the water, wrapped up, definitely seconds from dying. And luckily, J.Lo came to his rescue. So in a way, I feel like obviously because I'm Black, maybe I would survive because I'd be the token Black character. And in this scenario, I'd need to survive because we're the ones who made it out. We made it out the jungle, through the thick and the mud, you know what I'm saying? Out the swamp together. That's a bond. That is a bond.
That is.
Like, how do you go back to LA after that and be like, you want to get coffee? You want to talk about that fucking snake we escaped?
Calls your friend up randomly 2 years later. Do you remember that fucking snake?
Wait, can you pretend that Owen Wilson made it out alive?
Hey, do you remember that fucking snake? Wow, that thing was huge.
Oh, can we just talk about Can we just talk about how quickly he was on Saron's side to like try to capture the snake?
And for a moment, I thought motherfucker was in on it too. Like, I was so mad. But then I was even more mad when it wasn't because he was in on it. He was just like, yeah, all right. Like, think about how much, like, babe, did you see the power on that man when he flopped that snake skin on the ground? Like, I want to feel that good. I'm trying to get to that level.
And like props to Saron because he is definitely probably some kind of con man because he knew who to prey on.
Yeah.
I think he saw Owen's he heard a little wow.
Wow. And he's like, that guy's an idiot.
He's like, yes, this is who I need on my side so that I can take
horny, sex-driven, greed-driven mofo.
It's like, this black eye is gonna get on my fucking nerves. He's not gonna want to do anything I want to do. And oh my god, I think it's so funny that Ice Cube has like a little pocket knife and it's just like whips it out and it's like just like, hey, I got us covered, you know. And that's like the first thing to fly in the water. It's just like, pew, buy a little pocket knife. And also the fact that Owen Wilson is the only one who is supportive of Saron's big snake dreams. And he's in the process of trying to catch the snake. He's the first one to get eaten. Like, how ironic is that? It's like, see, you should have just stuck with your crew because here you are following this guy and now the snake ate you.
I feel like that's that classic trope, though, in these kinds of thriller movies is like the Joker / the person who mocks the beast totally gets their upcoming.
Kind of like Jamie Kennedy in Scream. Mm-hmm. Like the whole, you know, there's that whole segment where he's ragging on, you know, movies and the whole like what you don't do in scary movies. And the snake was like, God, if he says wow one more time.
And as he swallows him whole, he's like, I like to see you say wow one more time. And you just see his dumb face pressed up against the snake skin going, wow.
That's probably why I was like in that note. Those are his last words. That makes sense. I mean, his mouth and his eyes would have been totally wide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I will say there is some creative shots with the snake where, like, from the inside of the snake when he eats Saron, I believe, towards the end, you just get like the fleshy inner like throat of the snake.
I love that shot.
Yeah, that was really good.
You see like the saliva pull too, like falling off of its fangs.
And then we have to talk about the gross, like, regurgitation, like
partially digested stomach acid.
And he winks at J.Lo.
Yeah. Oh my God. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, he does. So cheesy. That was so stupid.
That and that he like had to like kind of fall onto her. I would have like, first of all, I'm not gonna stand there and watch this snake barf up this whole asshole who just, you know, ruined my whole trip.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stand there and just be like, oh God, what is he doing? Like, no, haul ass and get out of there.
GTFO.
But it's a movie, so you have to have these moments. But he like totally just kind of falls forward on her. Oh, also Anaconda themed cocktails. Any revelations or?
Nope. I stand by my original thought, which was Twisted Tea and Mountain Dew, and like just turn it into this like swampy swamp color. Maybe rim it with some like green Pop Rocks for fun.
Oh, you had me at Pop. Actually, you had me at rim it. No. But yes, Pop Rocks. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I think I can't think of anything else, but I also was a fan of a swampy drink, but I also was very gross and in
Detail.
in tandem with regurgitated Cerrone was thinking of like a totally like fleshy, mucusy, like kind of drink with a little person inside. So yeah, don't come to my bar. Probably go to Simone's. Go next door. Oh, I thought of like a fiery snake kind of drink. Gotta
Okay.
have fire. So maybe I'll go with that. I won't be gross. I'll go with and then my boba snake eggs. Gotta throw that
Boba snake
that
eggs
in.
were good.
Yeah. So some kind of drink with some like boba snake eggs
Some
in
kind
the
of
bottom and some kind of fiery snake garnish to top it all off and a little pizzazz. Little I don't know why I'm imagining this happening in Vegas somehow, but it has to be like some over the top, like showy bartender.
Oh, or like a la Paradise Pier or Pixar Pier now, like with how elaborate they are with the multicolored cocktails and stuff.
You had to take it there.
I'm sorry.
You had to take it there. God damn it. All right. I think we talked thoroughly about Anaconda from a very loving standpoint.
Well, I believe we have. And this was a good, easygoing first episode. Like we said, this is obviously a work in progress. We are by no means professional. We need to think of an outro.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who stuck with us so far, come back for another episode of the great value version of Inside the Actors Studio.
But seriously, if you like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss Nurses on the Line, The Crash of Flight 97, and My Family, a double duo.
And on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone.
And I'm your host, Bria. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call. And